Good morning, everyone. My name is Mike Morfer. I'm on the product organization at Veritone. We've got a great panel put together, 3 different agencies represented, all in varying stages of preparing for Ripa compliance. We've got an interesting session. The intention here is just Q&A. We'll lightly touch on some applications that agencies are using or considering for use with Ripa compliance. Before we get too far into things, I would like to go ahead and introduce the panel and give you all an opportunity to hear who's going to be answering the questions along this journey. So without any further ado, Nicole, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and let those in attendance know how you've helped your agency with your Ripa compliance.
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nicole Van Trane. I am the records manager, aka custodian of records for the City of Anaheim Police Department. We are a Wave 3 agency, and we did go live January 1st, 2021. So we've been submitting for about 5 months to Cal DOJ using the DOJ portal, but we are also exploring using Veritone as a product for data collection and submission. I'm here to help. If anyone has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. So let me know.
Outstanding. Thank you, Nicole. Jake, go ahead and pass the virtual microphone to you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Lieutenant Jake Pincus. Work at Monterey PD. Last fall, I was assigned this task to make sure that we are going to be in compliance with Ripa starting January 1st, 2022. We're a Wave 4 agency. We've looked at a few different applications. Veritone is one of them, and we are currently we're right in the middle of our 14-day trial with Veritone. So the guys are trying it out right now. And just like Nicole, I'm here to answer any questions that I can help with.
Outstanding. Thank you, sir. Greg, your turn.
Good morning, everyone. Lieutenant Greg Robertson with San Diego State University Police Department, Administrative Lieutenant. And just like Jake, and we're Wave 4 on the administrative arm of Ripa. So we'll get through the process. Also looking at different applications, Veritone being one and RIMS being one. Just trying to figure out what's best for our agency moving forward, and also here to answer any questions.
Great, thank you very much. And once again, my name is Mike. I am part of the organization that brings different solutions to market for Veritone. We specialize in providing applications that help law enforcement with finding bad guys in evidence, being able to compare booking records databases with evidence that's been submitted. We also help with being able to redact footage from BWCs and much, much more. We assist everywhere from Wave 4 size organizations to the state level. We also have a significant number of federal customers, including the U.S. Department of Justice, where we assist them with early case assessment and e-discovery applications as well. So I'm happy to have this group here. And without any further ado, just a couple of logistics here, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Each of you should be able to see a panel on the right-hand side of your screen. Should you have a question that you would like the panel to address, please feel free and post it here. Both myself and Daniel, you may hear someone else pop up periodically. We'll be monitoring your questions, and we'll do our best to get those posed to the panel itself. Many of you already submitted questions in advance. Thank you very much. We'll also do our best to get through all of those during this session as well. As each of the panelists had mentioned, they went ahead and shared which wave their agency is in. As I suspect most of you are well aware, DOJ has been rolling out Ripa compliance in a 4-wave schedule over the last several years. Some of our state's largest agencies have already been live for a couple of years. And as Nicole just alluded to, her agency, she's with Anaheim, is a Wave 3 agency. They just started collection January 1. And the vast majority of agencies, many of you I suspect that are listening to my voice, are part of that wave 4 effort, and it's truly a tsunami. So not a surprise that many of you are here to hear some Q&A from those that are in your similar position, or those that have been ahead and have experienced some of the growing pains of ensuring compliance with Ripa itself. So along those lines, we thought it would be helpful just to get a sense of who is listening. And we've got one quick question that we're going to pose out. And Daniel, if you could go ahead and get that put up on the screen for everyone. Just a quick poll. If you could go ahead and pose in here which wave your agency is in, so we can all collectively get a sense who is in this session. Okay. Daniel, I'm not sure if there's anything magical you need to do to close that out and share the results. So maybe not too surprising, a significant number of wave 4 agencies are being represented here. And I'll be candid with everyone. The reason we are doing this session is Veritone has been giving product demonstrations and talking about Ripa 3 or 4 times a day with that many agencies for the last couple of months. And a Wave 4 agency remarked during one of these sessions, they said the amount of insight you're getting and best practices you're getting talking to these different agencies, it's worth so much. Would you be able to find a way to put us all together so that we could kind of share notes and ask questions? So that was the impetus for this, and hopefully we'll all gain a lot from it. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start with some of those questions. And Nicole, I'm going to start with you, since your agency has started collecting, and maybe this will help with some of the foreshadowing of where others are going to be shortly. Maybe we can start with probably the most requested question that came in for the pre-registration. How has your agency started submitting data to DOJ? And if yes, have you figured out an operating rhythm or a frequency of how often you submit that data to DOJ? Can you touch on that for us?
I absolutely can. But first and foremost, kind of like you were talking with the tsunami earlier, for everyone that's listening, I know it's a daunting task, and just don't be too worried. It's not that big of a task. Just like adding any additional thing, the officers are going to be fine, and it will work into operations. With regards to how we're collecting data, reviewing data, and submitting, all of the officers were given training. We created training videos and pushed it out to all of our staff. And we have elected, using the state portal, to use the reviewer task, where all of our sergeants and above, they review their respective staff's RIPA reports, and then we submit immediately. So it is an immediate submission. And all of the different, I guess, elective companies that we've looked at, there's different options where you hold on to it or submit it quarterly, semi-annually, but we are doing live time data submission.
Is there a reason that your agency has chosen that frequency? It's my understanding the requirement with DOJ is just once a year. I'm not suggesting that's a best practice. In fact, I haven't heard any agency take that approach, but is there a reason you've chosen to immediately post the data?
I guess just for the ease of use. You know, there's nothing sitting in a queue or a portal for us to do something, to go back and check on it. When we make sure that it doesn't have all the requirements that the legislation has written down, if there's no violation, then we just are submitting so they can keep it in their queue for the annual report.
Perfect. And maybe just one more follow-up question for you, Nicole. Did I hear you say correctly that you have sergeants doing the review? Was that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And approximately how many stop reports is each officer doing at one go? And just to frame that for you, a lot of the questions also received, in fact, just during some of our conversations with different agencies, everyone's trying to figure out how to schedule their time and how much of an incremental investment this will be for review of PII prior to submission. If you could touch on some of that, that would be outstanding.
So my recommendation, at least just for our agency, and I can only speak for Anaheim, my recommendation is for the officer to at least complete their Ripa report at the conclusion of their stop, not to hold it and put it in some sort of dashboard to wait on it, just because you're going to have contact with so many different people. When I started my testing phase with my officers, it did initially create about a 15-20 minute hold for the officer when they're, 10-6, or sorry, they're busy writing reports. They are down to about 3 to 5 minutes for completing just the Ripa report. That's absent of writing a report, an arrest, a citation, but they are down to 3 to 5 minutes for the Ripa, and they'll submit it to the officers for review. Did I cover everything?
I think you did. Thank you very much for that. Greg and Jake, maybe you could comment. Obviously, you're still a ways behind Nicole's agency. Have you given consideration to what role will also be doing review in your agency, and have you contemplated the frequency in which you plan to have them doing that review process as well?
Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, so the final decision hasn't been made, but it looks like right now what we're leaning towards is the officers will, do their Ripa report as soon as they're done with the stop, so it's fresh in their mind and they can get the most accurate data. It will go into the queue, and originally, as we very first start, it's going to be myself and another lieutenant. We're going to do the review. Hopefully plan on sending it or submitting it to DOJ at least once a month. And then as time goes on and the officers and the sergeants and everybody gets very familiar with it, it'll roll down to the sergeants reviewing their own shifts, Ripa reports.
Greg, anything different in your environment?
Slightly different. We created a staff sergeant position. So the officer will complete the report, submit it. Once it's submitted, it'll go to their immediate sergeant. The sergeant will review it. And then we want to have a double review for audit reasons. It'll go to a staff sergeant, and we'll probably submit once a month just to make sure that the audit's done completely.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for that. I'm going to take a couple steps backwards in questioning, and this is appropriate for all three of you, so anyone feel free to respond. There's many different ways of providing the collection of this stop data and in the review process. Nicole had mentioned that Anaheim is currently using the Ripa portal provided by DOJ. Question for all of you, as you've evaluated other applications, Veritone, the RIMS RMS solution as well, what are the three most important capabilities beyond meeting basic need do your agencies find most important in the application that you're ultimately going to select? Who would like to try that one first?
I'll start off. So obviously for us, it's ease of use for our officers. So the end user, it's got to be an easy application that they can use and get through, just because it's another thing that they have to go through out in the field. So ease of use for everybody that's going to be using it. And then for us, we often contact multiple people. So making sure that that is something that we can work through and don't have to repetitively go through things over and over again. So making sure that the system is efficient as well. And then for our agency, we have a lot of stakeholders, community-wise, university-wise. So we like to make sure that we have something on the back end for reports that we can get back and just verify on our side what's going to be presented out to the community, and we can present it to them, not just what the Ripa data is showing, but the information that we can show on the backside to verify and support what our officers are doing out in the field.
Do you have an example of what you would be wanting to provide back to those constituents, whether it's you're in a unique situation on the panel, whether you have to report up to the chancellor's office? Obviously, there's community things as well. Greg, is there anything unique that you're wanting to be able to present in that reporting that may give consideration to those listening to you?
Obviously, because we're within San Diego area. Our campus is located within the Eastern Division of San Diego. And we have a lot of population or community that comes onto our campus that aren't associated to the campus whatsoever. So we'd want to capture that in some way, shape, or form. Are they student, faculty, or staff, or are they community members coming onto our campus that don't have any, I don't want to say business, but don't regularly come to our campus? And are we contacting them? Why are we contacting them? The Ripa data wouldn't present that information, and we want to capture that in some way, shape, or form that we can present to our community members and our stakeholders. That's one specific thing. We have recently acquired Qualcomm, so that Mission Valley area is going to be another area that we have not typically policed, but once it's up and running, we will police that area. So that's a whole different area demographic that we'd want to make sure that we capture separately from our main campus area. So again, something that Ripa would not capture through the DOJ portal and we think other apps or applications. So we'd want to make sure we're trying to capture that information as well, some way, shape, or form.
Excellent. Nicole, I'm going to kind of branch from something Greg just shared, and I know that your agency also has your chief specifically has a similar interest that this is an opportunity to be able to collect additional information that wouldn't necessarily need to be delivered to DOJ per se, but to be able to get further context of the stuff itself. Would you care to comment on that as well?
Sure. I'm actually going to piggyback right off of what Greg was saying. It's the same thing where rather than the legislation data going out publicly, we can also collect additional data to kind of script the narrative. For example, the Ripa report AB 953 doesn't ask at what point the perception of the person's ethnicity, race, gender, at what point that's seen. And DOJ actually came out and visited with us, and they explained their perspective. If we're pulling over a speeding car, it's a red car runs, speeding, and the windows are tinted, you don't know if it's male, female, black, white, Asian, Hispanic. So you're not stopping people of a certain ethnicity, a certain demographic of your city for a certain reason. You're basing it off of collective, enhanced, officer productivity. So that's one thing that we've asked of Veritone is an additional question is, at what point was the ethnicity, gender, age perceived? Because it's all perception data rather than true and accurate data. So that's why we are looking at this as an option so that our chief can collect additional data and put an actual true picture around what it is that we're required to collect rather than just collecting and putting it out there saying that we are only stopping female whites in our East End or male Hispanics on our West End. So we're trying to create an entire picture rather than just collecting data and submitting it out there and people creating their own narrative about it.
Thanks for that, Nicole. And just to tie back to Greg's remarks, and this is an area that has been of significant interest when we've been speaking with different agencies. We've already had some people posting questions during this session. Why would Anaheim choose to evaluate another application if they're already using the DOJ portal? This specific topic of being able to get, my words, not theirs, but more environmental, more contextual information collected that DOJ isn't explicitly asking. You all know your agencies, you all know your environments. There are things unique to where you patrol that you may want to be able to collect that information as well. And candidly, that is why Veritone started developing our contact application to be able to give agencies the flexibility to collect supplemental information, yet only deliver to the DOJ the requisite data that is obligated through AB 953 itself. So Nicole, I appreciate that. Thank you. Before I leave that topic, Jake, just wanted to give you an opportunity if there's anything additional that you think you'd like to add. If not, I can certainly move on to some other questions.
No, I think Greg and Nicole hit it, right? The benefit is obviously ease of use, a system that helps prevent officers making mistakes or submitting wrong data, and the ability to add additional fields. So it provides some context to the different stops.
Yep, that's great. Thank you. For other agencies, that 71 some odd % that are in wave 4 that are still most probably in their evaluation. Another question came in that I'd be eager for anyone on the panel to respond to. San Diego Sheriff developed their own RIPA application. As you can appreciate, they were one of the first agencies that had to react, and they probably made some decisions internally that the best way for them to accommodate the requirement was to develop their own app. Since that point in time, they've open sourced that app. For those of you that are not in IT circles, open sourcing means you make the source code available. So if you're a developer, you can take this code, you can compile it, you can modify it, you can then deploy it in your own environment. And it's my understanding many agencies, particularly sheriff's departments, have evaluated and or taking an advantage of the San Diego Sheriff's application. The question that came up is that a good choice? And if it is or is not, what are some of the implications or considerations that need to go in to taking an open source project like what San Diego Sheriff put together and figuring out how to deploy that within your agency? And Greg, maybe I'll start with you to see if you've got any thoughts on that.
Thanks. We looked into that briefly. I think with most agencies that are on this call, we at the university, we have IT, but it's with the university, and we don't have anybody housed within our police department. So having IT support is not something that we have readily available to us. And with the sheriff's department and talking to a sister agency within San Diego, they said that to go with sheriff's department, you have to have IT people that are very well versed in SQL. I think I'm saying that correctly, Mike.
Well done.
And if their IT department's not very well versed in SQL, do not go with the sheriff's department, because if anything happens with the app, if anything goes down, you have to have immediate IT support that's going to help you out and get through those issues. So we briefly looked at the sheriff's department. I think that if you want to get it up and running and you have good IT support, then go with the sheriff's department. My other consideration why probably not going to the sheriff's department is I don't know what kind of back-end reports you can get with the sheriff's department through their application, and that's something we are very heavily looking at. So yep. 2 considerations why we're probably not going to go with the sheriff's department.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Greg. And I will share, just broadly speaking, I've been in IT enterprise software my entire career. So this is not a remark specific to what San Diego Sheriff put together. In general, any kind of open source project, you need to have dedicated full-time developers that are on staff to be able to maintain it. One of the unintended consequences with projects like this is it's very common that there are what are called libraries that are built into software. Libraries end up getting exploited on occasion. And you need to have a team that is staying on top of these exploits to make sure that if something needs to be recompiled, rebuilt, you have the resources that can immediately react to that. I'm absolutely confident San Diego Sheriff and some of the other larger agencies probably have those resources. But if your agency does not, or maybe it's shared with the city or even the county that you're in, you may be sitting in a line waiting for things like that to happen. And there are situations where you don't have the flexibility of waiting in line. You need to get that patched and deployed right away. That is a huge benefit of working with a solution provider that is in the business of making software, whether it's Veritone or another company. That gives you the confidence that, frankly, it's someone else's problem and they get to stay up all night and fix it and push it out so that your officers remain productive. So just a little educational remark there. Nicole and or Jake, do you guys have anything to add to this open source San Diego Sheriff application conversation? Otherwise, I can certainly go a different direction.
So we actually created a RIPA team, and we explored all of our options, And just for the ease of implementation and getting us going, we elected to do DOJ's portal because there was no cost to it and we could just at least go operational. But the reason that we're looking at Veritone and other companies, we can submit data through multiple avenues at the exact same time in addition to doing DOJ. So while we're exploring what Veritone wants to do for our agency, we can still be compliant with AB 953 and submitting the data to DOJ.
Outstanding. Jake, anything else to add on there?
No, I think, the big things for us were we were a little bit worried about security on the back end, with this being open source and us having access to it was, is anybody else going to get into it? And then, just like anything, right? Something's going to eventually fail. And if it failed, our IT department is here and they're a great support to us, but we don't have our own internal IT department. So there's nobody that we're going to be able to call in the middle of the night to try to get it back up and running.
Yep. Maybe I'm going to go to a different topic, and Jake, maybe I'll stay with you for just a moment. When you think about, let's fast forward 6 months and your agency's live, what devices are you expecting your officers to be using for collection? That's part one. And the second part of that is those of you that will be doing review, same question. What kind of devices are you going to be doing this on? MDTs, mobile phones? Can you talk to that?
Yeah, for sure. So primarily, our officers will be collecting this data on their iPhones. Every officer gets issued an iPhone. That's what they use in the field. And that's how they'll be collecting it. They'll have the option to collect it on the MDCs inside the car. But our motors don't have the MDCs, and we have a lot of different events where guys are on foot or on bicycle for 10 hours a day, and so they wouldn't have that option either. So that would be the phones, and then the review process will almost entirely be on Windows desktops, just logging in that way.
Yep, great. Nicole, can you comment on what your agency's doing?
It's a multitude of things. We have desktops, we have the Panasonic CF54 Toughbooks, or mobile devices for our traffic division for the review, and it's either in field or in the office.
Excellent. Greg, you want to bring us home on this one?
Yeah, I think the same as the other two agencies, mostly probably on their phones. We have a lot of special events on campus, and with Mission Valley coming up, we'll have a big stadium there that will have special event officers that will only have access to phones. So mostly on their phones, but they'll be able to do it through MDCs per patrol. And then review will probably mostly be on desktops, if not MDCs.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Just a educational point just to share with everyone. As you're evaluating options, you clearly heard through the panel that the answer is kind of all of the above, right? Whatever tools you have available, assume that they're going to be consumed, particularly the officers. They're going to be using something that is mobile, but to be able to have the flexibility to take advantage of whatever's available. So be sure and look for that flexibility and explicitly make sure that if it is a desktop application, particularly one that may be coming from your CAD provider or RMS provider, that it also has the flexibility of working on mobile devices as well, so that you can have that continuity and keep those officers as productive as possible. Excellent, appreciate that. And maybe talking to the point of officer productivity, I'll once again start with you, Nicole. If you have any thoughts on using the DOJ portal app, approximately how long is it taking an officer to complete a stop report? Do you have any data on that yet?
Unfortunately, we don't. That's one thing that internally that we're talking about is maybe creating like a study code or a busy code or a service code. I don't know what your CAD RMS vendors call it in your community, but we are not collecting that at all. Yeah.
And maybe Jake, I'll go back to you. I know you're in the middle of a trial evaluation, and maybe if you've also evaluated other offerings, you could comment on what your experience is right now and about the amount of time it's taking an officer to complete a stop report.
I would say, I think Nicole mentioned at the beginning, right? It was picture yourself, your first week on FTO and you're trying to fill out a ticket for the first time, right? That's how long it's taking the guys to do Ripa right now. But as time goes on, they're getting better, definitely quicker. You guys are the second agency, second company that we're demoing, right? And we're gonna have a third one that we're gonna demo here soon. I think a benefit is the ability, a time saver, is the ability to put more than one stop within one report. So you have 3 people in a car, 4 people in a car, whatever, stop a group of people, at a park. You're able to do it all in one stop, and I think that is a little bit of a time saver. And the guys are getting quicker as they go forward.
And we've heard that multiple times as well. And I'm way overgeneralizing dozens and dozens of conversations. Obviously, everyone's mileage will vary. In general, what I have heard is a typical uneventful traffic stop using the DOJ application is approximately about a 5-minute exercise for someone that's familiar with the application. However, the moment there starts to be multiple individuals that were at that stop, that starts multiplying very quickly. And so one of the things that we did with our application, as Jake alluded to, is the ability to easily add a number of contacts at the same point in time so that all of that work is done in one go, significantly improving the productivity time of the officer. So it's something we certainly strive to be able to implement. Greg, similar experience for your officers? Anything unique to share on productivity?
No, we have a beta squad that's testing a couple applications right now. So we get feedback from them this week, and then we're going to make a decision this week on moving forward what application we're going to use. Reason being is our chancellor has decided to move our implementation from January 1st to July 1st of this year. So we need to be up and running by July 1st with an application submitting stop data report and getting the process started. So we don't really, I think it's the same as what Nicole said. The process is right now taking a little bit longer for our officers, is 5 to 8 minutes probably. But as they get more comfortable, 3 to 5 minutes. And then the review process, probably the same thing, is that it's going to take the sergeants to take a little bit of extra time to review the process and see what's actually being presented in the stop data. But we also want to do a review process with the stops that the officers are making that day and comparing them to the RIP data, make sure that they coincide with each other, because we don't want to be caught on the backside with somebody doing a PRA and not those two not coinciding with each other. So we're going to take the extra step to make sure that that audit process is in place. Right.
Greg, we had a question come in a few moments ago. I'm gonna direct it back to you for obvious reasons that you'll see in just a moment. Uniquely, you're the panelist that is associated with a educational institution. We actually have a significant number of people that registered for this event that are peers to you at other universities. We also have some school PDs present. Are there any considerations that you think those agencies need to be giving thought to in that unique environment, the unique educational environment, as you've advanced through your readiness?
To tell you the truth, I think we're in the same category with any other agency. I think we're going to be looked at, and the people are going to want to pull the, like I said, PRAs and find out what we're doing 6 months from now, a year from now. My chief is a little progressive, and he's already put together a community group within the university that we're going to pull in and have them start reviewing and looking at, I don't know, for lack of a better word, what RIPA is, what it's involved, what kind of information is being pulled. So when we start getting those PRAs, it will have a community group that kind of understands it from our side as well, that they can be, I don't want to say an advocate, but understand why the information that we're pulling, why it is put in a certain way, and how it's coming out. And again, with hopefully the information that we're getting, the data that we're able to pull, if it's through Veritone, through that collection of data, we can use the community group plus that information to present it to our chancellor's office or to the university stakeholders.
Excellent. Thank you. A question came in earlier regarding non-DOJ RIPA portal applications and concerns around security. One of the, and I'll just make a general comment, and if any of you have anything additional to share, I welcome it. If anyone that is participating in this session are entertaining a non-DOJ supplied application, you absolutely want to make sure that that is hosted in a GovCloud CJIS compliant environment. So hopefully that's one of the first questions you're asking, because if it's not, you just need to stop. Your conversation ends. You're putting your agency in a hot seat. Obviously, Veritone does deploy in Microsoft Azure GovCloud. We do a tremendous amount of work together with Microsoft, and our environment is audited, meets your CJIS compliance obligations as well. And you definitely want to challenge any third parties with assuring that those similar obligations are met. So just a general comment there. I'm not sure if anyone else on the panel has any comment or experience with third parties and asking those types of questions that you want to add to the conversation or not. No. Okay.
No, IT way over my head, so I give that to the IT people.
That's right. That's right. A different vein of questioning, and this is an interesting one. Reimbursement. Have any of your agencies begun researching or have any understanding of possibility for reimbursement from the state for your RIPA expenses? Does anyone share to comment on that one?
I'll take that one. Lisa, start. Oh, sorry, Jake. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Nicole.
So we're looking into that. We've started the process and we're using a third party to help elect us to see if we're eligible for any reimbursement. It's collecting all of your time, hours spent, services that we're doing, rendering to officers. So any suggestion to anyone out there, if you are going to elect to do reimbursement, just document all of your time that you're spent on implementing RIPA.
Jake, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, just what Nicole was saying, it was only probably 2 weeks ago that our finance department got the word back from the state that we could do certain things for implementation, certain things for implementation, but not for collection. So in other words, I couldn't, the officers out in the field right now doing the demos, I can't, because they're collecting data, I can't get reimbursement for that time that they're filling out the RIPA stops, but them going through the training, them setting up their account, me putting together the PowerPoint, doing any of the stop data, the SDCS state emails, right, when they're doing the Blue Jeans webinars, any of those things are reimbursable. It's just not the collection itself. So we actually added a column on all of the guys' time cards. So that's how we're doing it right now. And then it goes to the finance department. And what they submit to actually get reimbursed, I don't know, but I know they're on it.
Right. And are you aware one way or another if any software expense is reimbursable as well?
That is what they're still looking into. I have not got an answer yet. I did ask the question though.
Yep. I think that would be an interesting one to learn for sure. And obviously, based on everything you just stated, to be sure that you've got those controls in place to be able to collect that data so that you can get as much of that reimbursed as possible for sure. Greg, I'm not sure you've got anything to add to this or not on reimbursement, anything that you've learned?
Same as Jake and Nicole. We're looking into it. We're just keeping records of all the planning we're doing and doing the process. So we're just keeping documentation as far as that's concerned.
Yep. Great, great. Continuing on the vein of reporting, the RIPA board on an annual basis publishes their report. And about that same point in time, they also publish all of the stop data on the open data portion of the DOJ website, and I'm sure you guys are all familiar with that. Curious for everyone on the panel, do your agencies plan to publish agency level data, similar data to your own municipalities' websites as well? And be eager to learn a little bit more about what you're planning to do and your desires to be transparent with that data. Nicole, do you want to start that one off?
Sure. Our chief presently is very interested in posting basically everything, being very transparent with our community. However, the DOJ portal is not data friendly. I have to employ my CAU, or crime analysis unit, to kind of decipher the data that we're collecting. DOJ gives you very raw reports in numerical terminology. There's a dictionary just to decipher the data. A female is a number 1, a male is a number 2, transgender is number 3. They don't give you the actual terminology to create a beautiful dashboard for our community, which is another reason why we're looking for a third-party vendor to help us collect the data, put it into a pretty report that our community can understand. So yes, we're looking at publishing stuff prior to the Ripa report so that people can see what we're doing, when we're doing it, live time, rather than waiting a year and 6 months post data collection to, again, script their own narrative. We want to be very transparent with what we're doing in our community.
And just a quick follow-up for you, Nicole. So I'm intimately familiar with that data dictionary that's required for the DOJ. If any of you had looked at the data that actually gets published to the DOJ, it's cryptic. It's all coded, and you need to be able to get your decipher, decoder ring out to be able to map it back to human readable value. So that I completely empathize with what you were mentioning, Nicole. Once you've got your secret decoder ring out and you've been able to decode that, and your intention is to be able to publish that to a county, or excuse me, a city web property, does your agency have the resources, or does the city have those resources to make the pretty web pages with the reports? Or are you looking to a vendor to also provide the ability to create those rich visualizations so that it's a little easier for your agency to publish that data?
We do have the resources, but they're stretched, as I'm assuming everyone is. We've been affected by COVID and staffing, so I don't know how quick this would move to the priority list of getting published live time, which would make it easier if we did have a vendor that could get something lickety split, get a report done. So I don't have a time frame on that yet. Right.
Jake and Greg, anything to add to this? Do your agencies intend to be able to also publish your stop data reporting information publicly?
Yeah, so we currently already publish monthly reports and an annual report. And at the bare minimum, this is going to be included in our annual report. If it really turns into something that people are requesting, I can see us including it into the monthly report. And just like Nicole, I want to be able to provide our community with, that colorful PDF with bar graphs and pie charts and stuff like that. And I have no chance of being able to do that, pulling it from the DOJ website.
Yep. Greg, how about yourself?
The same as Jake and Nicole. We want to be as transparent as possible, so we will most likely post it on our website. We're in discussions about that, how it's going to look, but we'll probably use a vendor to do that same thing because we don't have the staff or the time to do that ourselves. So we'll probably look for a vendor to assist us with that.
Outstanding. We touched on this a few moments ago about extra questions that could be asked. And Nicole, you gave a couple of examples. Jake, I think you did as well. Beyond the stop itself, have any of your agencies given consideration to this is a unique opportunity to be collecting additional information in the field? Have any of your agencies given thought to, yes, if we had a tool to be able to do that, we want to collect some of that additional data thematically, I'm not asking for specific questions, but thematically, what kind of other information would be contemplated if your command staff's thinking about that? Nicole, I'll start with you. Any conversation in that area in your agency that you're aware of?
Yeah, we actually directed our additional questions based on the segments of the 8 different portions of the Ripa requirements, kind of to give more context or narrative to what actually is going on. Can we collect the beat, the district? That way we can actually segment our data to, this is predominantly, female white demographic area. That's why we're stopping female whites in this area. Or like, again, on our resort end where there's, Disneyland and our convention center, it's going to be a rainbow of everything that we're stopping. So that's what we kind of did. We elected to try and ask questions to the additional segments.
Jake, Greg, anything to add to this one?
Yeah, we are.
Go ahead, Greg.
So we're going to add definitely questions similar to Nicole's. We definitely want to add the beat question so that we can understand where in the city the stops are happening. I'm sure that'll be a question from our community. And then the second question that we are going to most likely add is the subject that is stopped, are they a Monterey resident? Just because you have so many tourists and things like that. That way, right. No one's trying to compare stop data to city residential demographic area or data.
Right. Great point. I'm going through the questions that have been submitted since we've been live, and I think we touched them all. I've got a couple of just trailing things that I'll offer here, but before I get there, to everyone on the panel, any just general comments or suggestions that you'd like to make before we start wrapping this up?
To touch on that last question, Mike, and adding questions, we want to make sure we're not adding too many questions because it already is as my captain likes to say, a work pill. So we want to make sure we're limiting the additional questions we're making the officers go through. So we're trying to be very selective and cognitive of what we're actually asking and adding to it, so it's not 15 more questions that they have to go through. It's going to take them another 5 minutes to do it. So it's mostly, we want to look for check the box type of questions. For us, might be a fill-in. The only fill-in we like to have is because if we go through Veritone, it's an app they have to go through. It's not linked to it on their CAD. So it'd be maybe an incident number that they can add to. That way they can refer back to it and we know what kind of contact they're on. So that's one thing we're looking at as well to add on to it. And
excellent. And sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
That's okay. And to add on, I think someone asked, it was in the chat, was, are we going to use ARGIS phones for our submission or collecting our data? Yes, they are attached to ARGIS, and that's something we're working with Veritone because ARGIS is not friendly working with outside applications. So that's something we're going to work with Veritone to get through that firewall, for lack of a better word.
Great. Any remaining thoughts or comments to share, Greg? And I'll go past through Jake and Nicole next with the same question.
No, I think for us, it's just making sure, again, the officers think that getting additional questions in there on the backside, it's a big brother, and we want to make sure that we're putting the information out to our staff and our officers that it's mostly protect our officers, and why we're doing this stuff is when the RIPA data comes out, that we have data behind the scenes and what we're collecting to support what the officers are doing and why they're doing it. So that's why we're looking at Veritone for one of the applications that can provide those reports to show that what the officers are doing and why they're doing it. So
excellent. Greg, thank you very much. Jake, any parting words here?
No parting words. It's been an interesting process so far. I see that the vast majority of the attendees to the webinar is in the same boat that I'm in. So if anybody has learned something that we did not present here, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm all ears as well. Or if I can help, reach out.
Excellent. Thanks, Jake. Nicole, any parting thoughts, recommendations?
The only thing I tell people when I talk to them is start sooner than later, but seeing how many people are on the call, you guys are already doing that and you're doing your research and finding out what it is, what data you want to collect and what, you want to be presented out to our community. So, there's, again, you can do multiple different avenues of data submission and just figure out what works best for your agency.
Outstanding. All three of you, thank you very much. If anyone reaches out to us and wants to be able to get your contact information, are you okay if we facilitate some introductions? Is that a problem? Awesome. Great. Thank you. And just super brief, this isn't meant to be an advertisement, but obviously we've got three agencies that are evaluating the Veritone contact application. It was purpose-built in collaboration with Anaheim specifically. DOJ has been very involved in the development of our application. We are absolutely focused on three really big buckets. Officer productivity. We want to be able to have an officer use the tools that he or she has available to them, be able to get in, collect the required information, and get back on patrol as quickly as possible. You're watching a cute little animation of a two-person contact vehicle stop. The completion of an entire stop report is taking place in about 90 seconds. So yes, maybe there's a little bit of a happy path in here. There isn't anything exceptional during this stop, but hopefully it illustrates how easy of a tool this is. You're looking at it on a laptop. This works great on smartphones, MDTs, of course, desktops as well. During the review step, we also want to be able to make, whether it's a sergeant or lieutenant or someone in the records team, be able to get in and get out as quickly as possible as well. It's a very simple process to do so. And a takeaway from this event, we would be delighted to give you a one-on-one demonstration of the capabilities of our product. If that would be helpful for you and your command staff, feel free to reach out to us and I'll give you some contact information in just a moment. Last but not least, hopefully you heard it multiple times. Each of the agencies represented here have clearly identified an unmet need with many of the other applications. In fact, to the best of my knowledge, all of the other applications, including that from the DOJ, for collecting extra information to provide that unique contextual information that is unique to your agency, your environment for the stop that took place. That is a capability that is rolling out shortly in our application as well. So thank you very much. Again, Nicole, Jake, Greg, really appreciate the time you invested for this. Hopefully this was educational for all of you as well. A email will be going out to you with a link to the recording. If you have colleagues that weren't able to miss it, but you thought this might be interesting for them, share the link, perfectly fine. If you'd like to go and look at a little more information on our offering, you can go to this web address here. If you want a demo, there's a button. You can go ahead and get a demo scheduled, or you can certainly reply back to the email that you receive as well, and we'd be happy to get that scheduled for you. So for everyone here, thank you very much. Feel free to reach out to us with questions. If I can introduce you to any of the panelists, I'd be happy to do that as well. Thanks again. Have a great day, and thank you very much.